Hello, my friends. My name is Justice Knight. Today, filling in for Lisa Haven. As co-host of Restricted Republic, we received one overwhelming request, a request so large that I'm going to have to talk faster than I ever have before simply to even attempt to cover it. We're even going to have to break this into two segments because there is so much information. But why do we title the video, The Patriots 101 Guide to Surviving the Biden Apocalypse, aka Defund Democrats? Because that's the question that so many of you have asked. What do we do? What apps do we use? Who do we support? Who don't we support? Well, we're going to go through that for you. And on top of that, we've even taken it a step further. We've started to build the ultimate blueprint as to what this is going to look like. The Patriots 101 Guide you see there published on Restricted Republic. We're going to be refining this over the weeks and months to come because it appears to be an ever-changing list. But more importantly, and Lisa wanted to extend this offer to you, RestrictedRepublic.com. We created it over a year ago knowing that everything you're seeing happening was coming. The conservative voice was going to be silenced once and for all. It's why we created the platform. And you see, the magnificent part about the platform is we're beholden to no one. No sponsors, no advertisers, nothing. And we're only beholden to our audience, which is you. And that's what unfiltered and uncensored news should look like. So if you haven't gone to Restricted Republic, Lisa wants to extend you coupon code Trump, discount code Trump, and monthly checkout. If you use it right now, 14 days for free, $5 a month for the next 12 months. And once you're there, we promise you'll go nowhere else for your high-level 30,000-foot news. No, we don't cover sports. We don't cover cooking. We don't cover anything but what's important to the very freedom of this great republic. And right now, my friends, it is significantly under attack. So this video in particular, what are we going to cover? Well, boycotts are legitimate tools of protest against injustice. And that title's extremely accurate. It's why we started with it. Who should you boycott? Who are the ones who have been on our side or not on our side? Well, there's been a fundamental shift in everything that's occurring. And it's not only going to be about the tech titans, as you see Mark Zuckerberg there. We already understand, as the title says, 95% of Silicon Valley donations have gone to Joe Biden. Everybody very well understands that by now. But what do? Well, you don't do this. Amazon Prime membership is growing at record pace. How does that happen? Amazon was concurrently responsible for the shutdown of a free speech platform. But yet Prime memberships are growing. You see, my friends, that's the wrong way to go. That's not a boycott, that's support. And that's not what anybody should be doing if they ever want to see any change whatsoever. Remembering that Amazon gave Parler the boot. A coordinated attack, a coordinated effort gone overnight simply because they believed in a different voice, a dissenting voice, which is no longer allowed in today's politics. So let's go on with it, shall we? Let's go to video platforms first with fancy graphics, and then you guys see the good and the bad in this video. By the way, we're not going to waste too much time if you not gone over yet and followed Lisa at Rumble. Created a channel there as a backup, and amazing. Again, and we continue to spread our efforts. We have to move very quick. Again, go over, follow Lisa. We'll leave all the links below in her description box. Easy to get to. Restricted Republic did the same. We needed to. We want to make sure the message kept going out. Lisa also publishes on BitChute, which I'm sure many of you are aware. Now, just pay attention and don't worry. We're going to go ahead and start building this over at RestrictedRepublic.com. If you don't have a pen and you can't keep notes, we'll keep the notes for you. So far, we got Rumble and BitChute, alternatives to video services. DTube is another one many talk about. Not one yet we trade on, but nonetheless, before we get to the evil in the scenario here, one would be Vimeo, one that we don't believe you should support. Why do we say that? Because when Vimeo doesn't like the agenda that's being published, they just simply remove the video. Hello, Antifa movie. Reason you cannot upload videos that depict extreme violence, but there was no extreme violence, right? Doesn't everybody remember that they were mostly peaceful, according to CNN? But you see, that's why we're going to start to steer you in the right direction. We're going to cover everything from video publishing to, if you want to go to the movies, which if any of you still do, hasn't been something evil, this is where the ultimate evil lies. We're going to go a little bit of levity here as we move forward. China-controlled AMC theaters sued for non-payment of rent. Did you know that AMC was owned by the Chinese? Do you support AMC? That's one of the boycotts you should be doing if you care about the United States and don't want to support the globalist. Another company you have to be very well aware of is Disney. Did you know about this? Disney app spying on children lawsuit claims. But that's not all that Disney does. You see, Disney's very much a part of this cancel culture, very much a part of the propagation of Chinese propaganda. Disney plus censorship, all the movies and TV shows edited and censored on this streaming service. Would you like to start to thumb down? I mean, Splash and Toy Story 2, and we can continue into Adventures in Babysitting. These are some very dangerous movies that, for whatever reason, Disney felt needed to be altered. So as your survival guide, that's one company, which is hard for many of you, because we all loved the Magic Kingdom at one point in time, but China's won the keys to Disney's Magic Kingdom. Well, how does that happen? Is published on the New York Times. Well, Mr. Iger, Disney's chief executive, took a corporate jet to Shanghai in February of 2008 to meet with the city's new Communist Party boss. Over dinner at a state guest house, Mr. Iger offered a more conciliatory approach, setting the tone for the next phase of talks. After that, Disney substantially dialed back its demands. In addition to handing over a large piece of the profit, the control-obsessed company would give the government a role in running the park. Just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. So when you're watching those Disney movies, and Disney's not alone, just look at the headlines. You'll see it's Disney and Hollywood hand in hand. But Barr condemned Disney and Hollywood for kowtowing to China. Well, what came of that? Well, a whole lot of nothing. But I want you to also pay attention to something else. This was published on The Guardian. So anybody who uses Guardian for their news, we're just going to thumb down showing you the article. And I want you to read this. This is how much you have to keep your eyes open now if, again, you're going to use our 101 guide to preserving some integrity of our nation. And it states, with millions flocking to The Guardian with the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, American democracy has a chance to reset. The new administration has a historic opportunity to address the country's deepest systemic challenges and steer it toward a path of fairness, equality, and stability. It won't be easy. Donald Trump's chaotic presidency has ended, but the forces that propelled him from a misinformation crisis to a surge in white nationalism to a crackdown on voting rights remains clear threats to American democracy. But don't worry, because The Guardian will be the ones to give you fair and balanced news, making that statement on almost every article. At the bottom, just so you know, go up to the top and you'll see right there, Barr condemns Disney and Hollywood for kowtowing to China. There's what The Guardian is all about. Netflix is no better, actually much worse in some ways. HuffPost, Netflix accused of cropping films, but company says it's all a big mistake. Wait now, cropping films? That's right. Back to the Future was one of those movies they felt the need to crop out a segment. He said it's a little sleight of hand, and if the producer wanted it to be produced a certain way, then Netflix shouldn't be responsible for what you see. We should make our own decisions, as we believe here at Restricted Republic. But now let's move on to some of the good guys in news broadcasting. If you're not following Breitbart, you should. Gateway Pundit does a tremendous job meeting with censorship everywhere. Summit News being another source. Project Veritas. The Epic Times. Those are some of the sources that you should move towards. Zero Hedge, another one doing a phenomenal job. And of course, Restricted Republic. You didn't think we wouldn't put that in there. The ultimate source of unfiltered and uncensored news. But now we, of course, when you look at the dark side carefully, you must be, for the dark side looks back. And it does. It does look back, and it monitors, and it tracks you. So if any of you are still relying on anyone you see here on your screen, please don't. All you're going to be fed there is agenda. Agenda that you know exactly where it's leading because you've seen it. It's framing up for this movement that's happening. But if you don't believe that the majority of America, because if you listen to mainstream media, you think the majority of America absolutely is in love with everything that's happening. But the actual trusted media, as published by Edelman Trust Barometer of 2021, shows a different story. You see traditional media and search engines and all the tech titans that are controlling everything are actually plummeting in trust. So America isn't completely blind to what's happening. Everybody's waking up to the lowest ratings that they've seen in some time, but now we got to go into the web. A little bit trickier to work through because some will say DuckDuckGo is good and some will say DuckDuckGo isn't. Well, what other alternatives are there? You have Tor, but unless you have a VPN, I probably wouldn't recommend using it. If you have a VPN, Tor is an amazing option for a browser. Or Brave would be another. This survival guide told you we give you all the options for videos to who you should shop at, to how you should search and how you should protect yourself and what email you should use. And really there's only one in our opinion, and that's Proton Mail. the one that's secure based out of Switzerland. Anything else, you must be very suspect to. But now we'll go into social media. This guide that changes by a daily basis. Pretty much almost everything you see on your screen there, you probably shouldn't use, except the one that's directly above me right now. But there's also other ones that, unfortunately, you see when you have a dissenting opinion, disappear. This is Parler, and we've been waiting. We've been waiting for it to go live. The minute it does, it will be the primary platform we will promote. But in the interim, you see Lisa has a page over at Gab that she's publishing on routinely. You see Restricted Republic has a page at Gab that we're publishing on routinely. We've also moved over to Codius, a smaller platform, but nonetheless one that preserves freedom. And then Clout Hub, a newer service. We've also are trading there under Restricted Republic. Lisa may be building a page shortly. You see, we'll continue to steer you in the right direction. But now we have to be a little bit suspect of MeWe, who was okay until they started filtering conservative voices. Get all these drop downs out of the way. You'll see Lisa has a page there, as does Restricted Republic. We practice what we preach. It's why we're showing you through this so quickly before we get to the dark side of who you absolutely should not use. One being, of course, TikTok, of course, the other being Facebook, and, Twitter. We shouldn't have to tell you that by now. You've seen our posts all but disappear. Our pages, we've taken down. Because simply you can't support the Democrats, or else they'll continue to gain power and information on you. Everything you feed these systems is fed back to those now in power, just so you're aware that's happening. Well, what should I do about texting? I love to text. What program should I use? Telegram is the one right now we're recommending. We're pursuing and exploring a little bit more about Signal as things move forward, so that in your survival guide should again happen. But one critical thing you should do, and I know Lisa's talked about this many times, is get a VPN. You see, a VPN doesn't let everybody know what you're looking at or where you're at. It scrambles the signal. Virtual Shield's one of the best. You heard Lisa promote this forever, and I'm not doing a commercial for them. I'm just simply saying they're still one of your best options. And as a sponsor of Lisa, of course, it's one we want you to consider. TorGuard being another, and then moving forward now. Out of VPNs into forbidden history. And why is this so critical? History is being altered, right? They're changing everything you see, everything you read, everything that our children is educated on. Now, who do we promote in this respect? If you want some real truth, go over to Steve Quayle. Does an incredible job aggregating an amazing amount of information. Longtime friend, supporter, and for that, we'll always give him a shout out. L.A. Marzulli is another one who gives you information that you're just simply not allowed to see anymore. And I want to give my hats off also to Arcana X, who has provided so much of this background on what we should use for platforms, who the good news sites are, and so on and so forth. You see, there's a lot of good guys out there. There truly is. And then there's some bad guys out there. Amazon. What have you done? Have you canceled your Prime membership? Have you lowered the amount of purchases? We understand it's a convenient platform. We get that. But in a world when we're trying to gain back power, convenience can't be a hurdle. And it can't be something that drives us. Do you know that Amazon owns the Washington Post? That's right. One of the great aggregators of great Democratic news and everything anti-Republican. Well, that's who Amazon runs and controls. The same ones that shut down Parler. The app could be back Monday. Well, obviously that hasn't come to fruition yet. Another great resource. Really inspired the second half of this video when we go company by company as to who you should buy from and who you shouldn't. I'm going to give you a little feel for that right now. Is investingadvicewatchdog.com. Published an A to Z list, an incredible amount of information, the definitive list of liberal, progressive, and or anti-Trump agenda-driven companies that you should boycott. You see, this is what we have to do. If we're not willing to, they'll continue to fund themselves and defund your viewpoints. But first, let's go to the cardinal rule. The cardinal rule of business is to never even discuss politics. Yet some companies have recklessly chose to alienate half the country by attacking Donald Trump and or Republicans, pushing for censorship of conservative speech, and or supporting the false narrative of systemic racism in police and in America in general. These companies are a threat to our freedoms. If we do nothing, then their left-wing political agendas and so-called values become the norm. And we've seen that happen. Just look at Airbnb and what they've done. By banning, and I'll put it right here for you, a woke far-left company, San Francisco, Airbnb cut off political funding to Republicans who support Trump. Airbnb blocked all reservations in the Washington, D.C. area in order to prevent Trump supporters from peacefully protesting, not what happened afterwards, the Biden inauguration. Airbnb never blocked any of the leftist reservations during Trump's inauguration. You see, that's not fair, and that's all we're asking for is fair inequality. Isn't that what they're asking for? Wow, American Express, your session has expired. Well, there's many others, however, that have now pulled funding from the Republican Party entirely, American Express being one. AT&T, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Verizon. You want to continue to go? We can add to that list. How about Best Buy? Plunge Republicans into cash crisis by boycotting Treason Caucus, and other firms stop all political donations. Comcast, Dow, and so many others. This is where we're going to start treading into the company side of the broadcast now. It doesn't slow down. Remembering, even if you go to Disney's website, you quickly see, well, exactly what we have to be concerned about, don't you? That wasn't even framed up. That's a live shot right now. That's what they're promoting. But you see, it's not only them. Telecom is no different. This is Xfinity. Comcast is. You know it. Comcast CEO Brian Roberts sees company playing constructive role amid national dialogue on race diversity. So now the telecoms are going to tell us what we should think also. Comcast chairman, CEO Brian Roberts said he's hopeful the dialogue around race and diversity spurred by the death of George Floyd can lead to some real change that has been lacking over the years in this country, and that Comcast can play a constructive role. And exactly what is that constructive role, I would ask. But you're lodging, not only Airbnb, if you take Marriott, for example, what have they done? CEO and co-founder have both voiced opposition to Trump, this is a never-Trumper, and also banned all donations to 147 Republicans who voted to oppose the 2020 election, which, if you want to ban all donations to Republicans and Democrats, I have no issue with you. Fine. At least then you're neutral. Because if we truly desired equality, peace, and neutrality, that's what should happen, but it doesn't because big money drives everything. And Walmart, why are you putting Walmart in there, Justice? Well, remember Walmart down at the very bottom here. Go ahead, get your 2-hour debate, sore loser. That was actually a tweet they sent to Josh Hawley. So much for not getting involved in politics. That didn't work out so well. Walmart CEO blames fiction of fraudulent election for dividing America, putting a very heavy posture up there. But then we have MasterCard. How can we use cookies? Don't ever hit yes on this, folks. That's an example of what you shouldn't do. And we'll tell you a few other secrets here shortly, because how do we know all this? And how do we know who's supporting who? Well, you see, there's an amazing site out there called opensecrets.org that tells you exactly, you see up on top, MasterCard Inc., and it shows you, now let me duck myself out of the way, who they're contributing to. And you'll see that, if you're donating to both parties, again, I don't have much of an issue with you if it's equal. 2008 looks okay. 2012, okay. But then what happened in 2016, 2018, and 2020? Oh my goodness, who's the blue? Well, that's Democrats, and you see how these mega companies are now shifting all their funding, and when all political races are decided by big money, wow. Looks like we're going to have quite a challenge about 2 years from now, and then 2 more years after that. Corporate America halts donations to Republicans who voted to overturn the election. You see, even CNN is publishing on this in case you thought it was just one side or the other. Airbnb and Amazon and American Express and AT&T and Blue Cross and Blue Shield and Comcast and Commerce Bank and Disney and Dow and Marriott and MasterCard and Verizon and Walmart, just to name a few. And as we close here, just some closing reminders at least wanted me to give you. You have to remember which apps you're using. You don't need apps necessarily in all cases. Gab's a perfect example of that. They operate without an app. When Parler went down, you could still use Parler by putting parler.com in your phone browser and then saving it to the home screen and just seeing the internet portal to Parler. The more you do that, the better off you are ultimately, because if you rely on apps which use your microphone and your camera, collect your information, and ultimately spy on you, then again, you're contributing to a portion of this problem in this survival guide. One thing you have to change a habit on. And were you aware that most of your vehicles now have a GPS locator sitting in the car, and there is actually a way to deactivate it? It's a little box. I know it's really convenient to have that navigation system, but it's also convenient for everybody else to have access to your navigation system. So if you want to desire at least to get off the grid just a little bit, remember that that's sitting and installed in your car. And how many of you still find the convenience? You notice how I keep using the word convenient, because that's how they trapped us all. It was convenience. The credit card's convenient. But I have to go to the bank and get cash before I go out and then guess how much I need, and I'm going to have to carry that on me, and that's not secure. Well, it's not secure if you're not able to protect yourself, which is a broadcast coming up quickly here. Another bill, another HR bill they're putting up that we're going to cover. But how do you spend money without being tracked? Well, it's cash. So that's just the beginning of this Patriots 101 survival guide to the Biden apocalypse and defund Democrats. Now we're going to go company by company. And you're going to have to give us a little time to make sure this is all done correctly, because it's a rather lengthy set of information. But we have a resource guide over at Restricted Republic. It will be up on the very top tab. You'll see Patriot 101 guide as we continue to build it. If you haven't gone over there and supported us yet, remember, we're beholden to no one. No sponsors, no advertisers. Only beholden to our audience. Lisa's extending the Trump discount code. Monthly discount. You plug in the code Trump, you're going to get $5 a month for 12 months. 14 days for free. Check out what unfiltered and uncensored news sounds like. That's your way of supporting all the work we're giving to you to assure that you can keep yourself safe for the next 4 years, and what you need to do and what habits you need to change. And trust me, we understand better than anybody how difficult that can be. But this is what we need to be preaching to our family and our friends. And just every little step, we don't expect any of you to be able to do it overnight. It's virtually impossible. But every little bit you tread backwards is one less dollar they have to spend against us in the next election series. So, can't thank you enough for being here. Thank you for allowing me to fill in for Lisa today. We're going to go ahead and really kick this into high gear now, company by company. If you're interested in that information, move over to Restricted Republic. It should publish in about the next 2 to 3 hours as we prepare that one next, because it is a plethora of information to say the very least. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight, signing out.